Welcome to another episode of Hot Cup of Wayne Gaming. Bob Inc. We're joined again, Space Engineers. Got something a little different this time. I'm adding the audio post. While I was doing off-camera work, a few interesting things happens. The first of which is business shipment flew pretty close to our base, and the private sail we have out there decided to start shooting at it, and it shot back and shot up our private sail a little bit. It only damaged the solar panels. It's been fixed, but I don't know. I shot the camera up there. I didn't fly up there. I just flew the camera up there and started recording it. The little shootout. I thought it was kind of cool. Um, yeah, and then so the next thing that happened was we encountered a rust freighter, and was out working on the repairing the private sail actually, and the rust freighter showed up. And after looking at the last rust freighter that I threw our ship into, I determined that I thought I had a way to take a rust freighter by hand, and it turned out to be true. Although I will say it probably won't turn out to be true every time. it as you'll see here in a second, I did not end up with a lot of health after I did it, but it is possible. And so if you don't want to see the inner workings of a rust freighter, I suggest, as the screen is telling you now, to turn away for the rest of the video, actually, because that's what the rest of the video is going to be, is me taking a rust freighter by hand as just the player with a grinder and a welder. So you see what you do is you approach from the nose. It's actually the bottom. No, that's the top. Yeah, so you approach from the top. What is that? Yeah, you approach from the bottom, bottom nose, and what you do is you line yourself up with that antenna, and you come from the bottom a little bit. And the Gatling gun can get you for a second from up there, but once you get close enough, as long as you're aligned perfectly straight with the antenna, then it can't shoot you, and allows you to access this front door. And once you access this front door, it's pretty much over from there. There's only one other danger, and I come up on that here in a second. Right now I'm just welding, I'm taking over the large cargo containers as I go down the walkway. To your left and right here are just the connector ports on the sides. There's 4 of them, I believe. So this double door here leads to the interior of the ship. There's another cargo container above here. This next door leads to a stairway that leads up to the main hull of the ship. And this is where the other danger lies. The inside of here lays a interior turret. It's off to the left, and what I ended up doing, and it worked for me. Now again, this stuff might not work every time, because as you can see, when I approached, I was left with only 4 health. I basically fired straight across as fast as I could. I lined myself up and went. This little staircase is a little tricky because it is tight, but basically what you do is you fire straight over across here, and when I turn back, you'll see that the turret is right there on the ground, and you can approach it from the top part there. So what I did now is I just went and I took control of the ship. This got a little bit frustrating, I guess is the best way to say it, is because the Rust Freighter is the only ship I've come across so far, and maybe there's others, I don't know, but when you try to chase down a Rust Freighter, it fires its engines to max and does not slow down at all for anything. So if you don't catch it right away with your ship and stay within reach of it, you're never going to be able to catch it with a ship, because it goes full speed and you can only go full speed, and thus you'll never gain on it. So the only way to gain on it is to actually fly at it in person, because you can go 110 with your jetpack. But I was trying to figure out how to turn off the thrusters. I basically turned the ship around so we were flying back towards Titan. And then what I did is I went around and you got to take out the timer blocks, of which there are 2, and the program block, of which there's 1. And then the part that it took me a while to figure out is in here I'm about to take the turret. I was going to try to place a block so that excuse me, so that I could kind of fly over the top of it, but then I realized I could reach it from the top, and for some reason it didn't turn to look at me. Now again, if I did it again 5 more times, maybe it would look at me every time and shoot and kill me, I don't know. But so there's one of your timer blocks. The ship also has 2 assemblers. They're right here on either side of the hallway. The other timer block is behind the LCD screen there. You'll notice through the windows are the batteries that we eventually get to as well. That's how you deal with the turrets outside. There are 2 Gatling turrets on the rear of the ship and an interior turret on the front of the ship. And the best way to deal with them all is to turn off all the power to the ship. There are also 4 small reactors on this ship. You can get to them all. But basically, once you get the 2 timer blocks and the program block, you can do what I'm attempting to do now, which I believe I failed at, because I end up flying past the planet and having to turn around again. But so once you turn off the 2 timer blocks and the program block, you got to go into the thrusters, and the thrusters are set to manual override, thrust override, whatever it's called, and you need to turn that off. If you try to turn it off before you destroy or turn off the timer and the program blocks, the program blocks and the timer blocks just turn it back on. I believe you also have to get rid of this sensor that's right above my head right now. I do eventually grind it, because I just was starting to get rid of everything, trying to figure out how to turn the engines off. Otherwise I couldn't finish taking the ship. It's important to note, as I mentioned, there's the 2 Gatling guns on the rear of the ship and the one still on the nose of the ship, so you do not, under any circumstances, want to leave the inner hull here of the ship or the hallway up at the nose there. If you do, you will be shot at by the turrets and probably killed the rest of the way, as, again, I only had 4 health points. But with the 4 health points, I was able to take it. So I basically went around and I was grinding down all the parts. There's a gravity generator. There is a remote control block. I believe that's what I'm about to grind right now. And it's underneath, behind the program block. So if you grind out the wall block there, it's the easiest way to get at it without having to grind off the program block if you don't want to. So there's an air vent, and there's I believe it's 3 large cargo containers. There's 1 small cargo container. They're all pretty obvious. They're bright orange. The small cargo container is up the stairs to my left, right before you go into the cockpit there. There's the gravity generator, and I'm looking at the assembler. I believe I ended up grinding out to the assembler from the inside. You can actually do it from the outside. It sticks out on the outside. So right now I'm attempting to turn the ship around again because we flew past the planet. I was trying not to get too far away from the planet. So I ended up just turning the ship around twice. I made sure not to fly it too close to the private sail, though, because otherwise it would just shoot at it, because it still had enemy blocks on the ship. So as you can see, I'm going through trying to figure out how to turn off the thrusters, because I couldn't figure out how to turn the thrusters off. Something else to note about the Rust Freighter is on the rear there are 2 merge blocks, and when you first approach the ship there are things attached to the merge blocks. It's basically a merge block and a decoy block, and when you get close enough to the ship and or shoot at it, the ship will detach those 2 merge blocks, and leave the decoy box floating there while it fires its engines up to full speed. It's kind of a neat thing. There's a welder hanging back there too, but I don't know. It's not capable of um, producing anything because there's no projector back there. I mean, I guess you could place the two blocks down and it may weld them up. I'm not sure. The problem you're going to have is there's no power back there when you place a merge block. So I don't know how the merge block's going to connect to the existing merge blocks to allow you to essentially reset the system. So the thing you want to do when you go out here, I don't know. I don't think I did the rest until I stopped the ship, and the ship is still going full speed. There's a passenger seat in there. There's 4 batteries. There's O2 tank, which is accessible from the outer rear of the ship. I should be figuring out here any minute how to stop the thrusters. I thought it was the remote control. It's kind of a combination. It's the remote control and the timer blocks, the sensor, and the program block. Basically, I think the sensor triggers the timer blocks, and the timer blocks trigger the remote control, and the remote control turns the thrusters on to max override and does not turn it off. So yeah, I was just going through the remote blocks. I mean, you can watch the struggle trying to figure it out. So this struggle was real trying to figure it out. I was racking my brain, and then I think I scrolled through and I'd seen the thrusters go by a few times, and I wised up to finally think about checking the thrusters, and lo and behold, the thrust override was turned on. Should be I think I figure it out here in a second. There we go. Yep, I figure it out. So there you go, thrust override, turn it off, and boom. Engines finally stopped thrusting at full speed, so good to go there. So I turn the ship around, and I do end up flying it back closer to the planet. I still kept a kilometer away from our private sail because you can still see the red beacon on top. There's an antenna, and there's still the guns on this ship that I didn't need to start shooting at my things with. So I believe I cut the trip out here. Took a little bit just to kind of slowly creep up into position. So, and there we go. We jump up to Titan here. Like I said, we pull with about a kilometer away. And then what I do now is I go deal with the rest of the ship. So you'll see that there's a turret hanging on the rear, and there's a turret on the nose, top of the nose there. And like I said before, the best way to deal with those is to take out the reactors and the batteries so that there's no power to the ship. Now, the reactors are behind all of the connectors here. You can reach them from the inside, so you do not have to go any further than where I went to the little edge here. You fly up against the conveyor tube there, and you can grind those down into your possession. And once you have them in your possession, you can turn them off. Until they're in your possession, you can't turn them off, and they will continue to power the ship. And they are all full of uranium, obviously. So here I go, and I grind down. I've ground. There's a third one now, so I put the conveyor tube back. So then I turn, and I do the fourth one here. The same deal with the batteries. You can get to the batteries without the turrets seeing you from inside here. You basically go back by the entrance to the hull, to the interior, and you kind of pop to the left and go grind the 2 batteries, and then you pop to the right and grind the other 2 batteries. Unless you're carrying power cells, they're basically dead in the water once you grind them down because, as you know, when you grind the batteries down, they lose power cells as scrap. You do not get power cells back at all, which is fine because there's 4 reactors. And for our purpose, we might actually, I think, are just going to salvage the entire ship. It has some ore in it, and it has a handful of components in it. And I'm actually, it's actually taken a long time to get thruster components for our ship build. So I see this as an opportunity to get a lot of thruster components, as there's a lot of thrusters on this ship. So you can pop underneath the wings here, as you see, and you can grind the batteries on each side. As long as you don't go around the rear or the top, you'll be okay. So you just kind of pop out the side hatch here, stay along the edge, and then you can grind the 2 batteries. And so once I grind these other battery, I can turn the reactors off, and the ship loses all power at this point. So now there's no power at the ship. Right above me is the oxygen tank. There's one on outside each window there. So with the power off now, you can approach the Gatling turrets because they have no power to operate. So as you can see, I pop out and I grind them. There's the welder. We just passed the O2 generator. I do go through and grind off everything, so you'll see it a little better when I go back through. So there's everything for the turrets, other than the one on the nose. I believe I go approach that one next. So there's the 2 merge blocks and the welder. So I approached the nose. I'm never 100% about these interior turrets. I've actually seen one shoot at me as I was flying, as it was floating away. So, but it looks like it's pretty much dead. So I was able to just pop up, grind it down. So basically, we have full control of the ship now. There's no turrets to get after us or anything. I'd say the only problem with it right now is there's no power. But that's easy enough to solve by turning the reactors on. Again, like I said, you don't need the batteries just because it has a full reactor. There are 2 sliding doors underneath the cockpit on the 2nd level there. You kind of go around the stairway that leads up to the cockpit, and there's a double door airlock that leads into the ship as well. We couldn't use that one because if you went up there with the ship had power, it would, you'd be shot at up there. So there's 4 connectors. You see me, I'm grinding those off right now. There's 2 gyroscopes. They're actually kind of hidden where the reactors are, right there behind those panels. You can kind of see it there, connected to the sides of the cargo container, the 3rd cargo container. Here's the set of airlock doors I was talking about. The problem I ran into is without power, I couldn't open the doors, and I was too stupid to turn the power back on, so I just ground the doors off, went through, realized I wanted to come back out, so I had to grind them off again. And there's a button panel here that's used to, it just has a button for opening and closing the doors. Actually, I think the button only closes the doors. There's a sound block. I never heard it make any sound, so I don't know if that was part of it. Here's where I go to get the assembler. Again, you can get the assembler from the exterior. I've realized that after I did it. I believe I popped the walkway here, and then you can grind the corner of it if you want. So there's the assembler. Just didn't make sure I get it. The tool kept popping back and forth between the conveyor tube and the assembler, but the camera is on the nose on the right side. It faces forward. So basically from that catwalk on the nose, you go to the right a little bit, and you should see it on one of the forward-facing panels. So I replaced the catwalk. So I think I'm going out for the gyroscopes now. No, I'm going out for the camera. So here's the camera. You see it right there.
Health
Grind that off. I'm just basically going through the list of parts that weren't under my control. Got to get the beacon. It was on the top. I did the antenna as soon as I rolled up so that it wouldn't call any drone ships, assailant ships, or whatever else it could call. There's the assembler from the outside, and then the next layer up is the O2 generator. There's the welder I was talking about, and the 2 merge blocks on either side of it.
energy low.
And the O2 generator, again, like I said, is right above it there. I don't think I did the O2 tanks yet. Again, they're underneath the window, or by the windows on the outside. I think I was checking the list of what was left. I turned the reactors on just so I could use the doors and stuff. Yeah, there's a cryo tank, or cryo pod. Obviously, I didn't mention it yet, but you gotta make sure you take that. It comes in handy. Obviously, I'm using it right now to regen the energy, and it looks like it's giving me a little bit of health. But I'd say all in all, not bad. They'd be able to take a rust freighter and survive with just 4 health left. It's almost like our when we took that asteroid base. I ended up getting popped as soon as I stepped in the door, but I managed to survive that with a little bit of health intact. Luckily, in there's a med bay I was able to use. So, yeah, I turned the reactors back off. I don't remember why. I think I just did. I didn't want them using the uranium because we're going to burn the ship down. So, but there's the O2 tanks. So I took the O2 tanks. And I mean, I really didn't have to take over a lot of the ship once I got it stopped and the guns disabled. But I wanted to drive it closer to the planets, to our stuff. So you can't have any enemy parts, otherwise I have to turn all of my other turrets off. So there's the O2 generator. You can see it right there. Yep, I grabbed that next. Grab the oxygen tanks. Again, they were on the sides there by the batteries. And now I go grab the 2 gyroscopes. You can see it right there. There's the 4 reactors from the top. They're all pretty exposed. Not a whole lot is hidden very well in this ship. I would say the remote control block is hidden the best. As far as important blocks to find, obviously, because that one I believe is the one that keeps popping the thrusters into full speed. But so there you go. There's the Rust Freighter. Thanks for joining us on Hot Cup of Web, and we hope to catch you next time.